Hey everyone, this is Bob McIntosh from Mass High Lowell Career Center. I have the honor of being with Sonal Bahl, who's from Belgium, and she's going to be talking about salary negotiation, how to negotiate salary like a pro. I'm really excited about this because I've known Sonal for, how long, Sonal? How long do you think?
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, well, almost a year. March 29th, we connected on LinkedIn, and we have been just communicating like crazy since then. So she's one of the top 25 career coaches on LinkedIn. She's just been awarded that honor, and I am so happy for her. Now, a little bit about her background. She's going to talk about her background in a little bit, but she has reviewed over 250,000 resumes. My gosh. Okay. So before I go any further, would you raise your hand if you can hear and see us? I don't see any hands. Do I see any hands? All right, great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, excellent. Now I do want to ask you another question. And since Sonal is an international star, how many of you are from out of the States or just out of Massachusetts? You live out of Massachusetts. Okay, I see some hands. Very good, very good. Okay, so we are going to go forward, and I am going to answer your question, or rather read out your questions as they come along. Now, keeping in mind that since we have about 171 people signed up for this, we have exactly 171 people signed up for this. I may not be able to read out all your questions, but we'll try to get to those. Are you ready, Sonal?
I am ready.
Excellent, good. Take it away.
Fantastic. Oh, fantastic. Great. Thanks everyone for being here today. Thanks, Bob, for having me. We have a lot of ground to cover. So let's get going. Everything's negotiable, but let's start with our salary. Let's start with the financial package, shall we? So what are we going to do today? There's going to be a brief introduction. We're going to define what exactly is the problem we're going to be solving today. We'll shed a little bit of light on your negotiation style because it kind of helps a little bit to have that reflection before you go into sort of battle mode. The topic of negotiation actually can come up even before, and that is when the question comes up, hey, what are your salary expectations? And I'm going to help you answer that. Then we're going to have specific tips and strategies on how to answer or how to approach salary negotiation. We may or we may not, I'll go with the assumption that we may not have time for a demo answer, but I have a workaround which will help you to do that. And then I'm a big fan of recap, summarizing everything, because there's a lot to take in today. So hopefully you've got your tea, coffee, water, whatever it is. At the end of the day, what I'd love you to walk away with is tips and strategies on how you can build confidence before you walk into the room. And if you think you're already pretty confident, we're going to help you feel more confident and armed with the right tips and strategies. And if you feel you're not confident or not confident enough, we are going to change that. Just a few quick housekeeping rules. The biggest thing you can give yourself right now and me is your time and focus. We are all multitasking. Let me tell you, multitasking is a myth. It does not exist. So if you are on social media, if you're on your phone, put it down, walk away from it, come to me. Trust me, you want to hear this.
Well, thank you for that advice, because I think multitasking is a myth as well.
It's a myth. It's a myth. There's plenty of research to prove it. Get your pen, get your paper, and let's have a conversation. Bring in your questions. Let's make it interactive. Trust me, you're going to get tired of hearing me speak. So if you want to hear me say your name out loud, come in the comments, say hi. Let's have some fun together. The other thing I want to say is keep in mind, Bob said I'm from Belgium. I'm actually originally from India. I've lived and worked in India, South America, Europe, but you can hear from my accent, I'm very much Indian. There'll be certain things you like. There'll be certain things you don't like. Okay. So everyone has their own style. This is one of my favorite quotes of all time by Bruce Lee. Take, what is useful, reject what is useless. add what is essentially your own. This is actually really, really great advice, not just for today, but when you approach coaches, and I'm putting this in brackets, gurus, consultants on LinkedIn, everybody has a lot to say. If you approach the topic salary negotiation on LinkedIn, or good Lord, if you go to YouTube or Google, you're inundated with hundreds of thousands of videos and every person claims to be the expert. I don't like the word expert. I just have experience, a lot of experience negotiating, and probably you do as well. So if you see certain things I'm saying and it doesn't make sense to you, keep in mind I've kept this very international for a broad audience. And if it doesn't work for your city, your state, or your country, toss it. Okay. Having said that, Bob, stop me anytime if there's a something burning, because I feel like if the train has left the station and the question is coming from 2 stops ago, it's kind of late. So feel free to stop me at any point when something is coming up and it's like a urgent question. I'll be happy to take it.
Okay.
Preparing you guys, it's going to be something like 75 minutes max. We'll try and keep it shorter than that, but I think if you really want to approach this topic in some level of detail, it'll be that long. Are we good?
We're good. And I just wanted to say that I told Sonal that it was going to be about 60 minutes, and she said that she wouldn't be able to cover it sufficiently in that time. So you're in for a ride, folks.
Yeah. I'm going to do time check. Okay, we're 8 minutes in. Let's do our best. A brief introduction about me. I have, as Bob mentioned already, worked in HR recruitment for quite some time, and now I'm this thing called Career Strategist, which sounds really fancy. I've already mentioned I've lived and worked in different parts of the world. I've been privileged to do that. Have an MBA from the #1 MBA business school, according to Financial Times. So I'm proud of that. Went there with a baby. A newborn baby. It was crazy. If you want to know how that worked out, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat with you about multitasking. Trust me, it's a myth. I've worked in large, medium, and small organizations, some well-known, some you've never heard of, and worked very closely with leadership teams across in different parts of the world. And something I really, really enjoyed, because the leadership is what can make or break the culture of the company. I started my podcast about 4 or 5 months ago, and it's a lot of fun, and I highly suggest you go and check it out. It's called How I Got Hired, and every single week, in fact, every Monday, I interview a new guest who's had a fantastic career, and you can guess the question I asked them. How did you get hired for that dream job that changed the entire trajectory of your career? It's worth listening to. It's people from all around the world. Thanks to all the traveling, I speak a few languages pretty fluently, and it's a lot of fun. And this is my firm. And I work particularly one-on-one with C-level executives from different parts of the world when they're going through a career transition. And I also have a club called the Supercharge Club, which is more sort of accessible financially, because not everybody wants to pay top dollar for one-on-one. Sometimes, people need accountability and help, and everything's there on my website. Let's move to the problem. What is the problem today? The problem is there's a certain percentage of all job candidates who negotiate their salary. Bob, could you ask in the chat, what do they think? If you are not cheating, it means you did not see my LinkedIn post today. You do not know what I'm talking about. What do you think? What percentage of all job candidates actually negotiate their salary? I'm going to take maybe 20 seconds, Bob, to wait.
Okay, I am curious myself. So what percentage of all job candidates negotiate their salary? And Sonal is going to take 30 seconds, 20 seconds.
I'm
so
not very patient. I'm going to say
25,
15,
60,
seconds.
50, 15%, 16%. Wow, it's jumping off the page. 20%, 10%, 5%, 40%, 30,
okay.
50, 20.
All right, fantastic. So, when it comes to stats, it comes down to who you ask. So this is a survey done by Monster. There are different surveys, they give different outcomes. The thing with surveys and sources is a lot of them are US focused. So if you're sitting in the US, it's quite applicable to you. However, we can also extrapolate it and say it's applicable to the rest of the world. 33%. It's kind of depressing if you think about it. 33%, one third of all people who are in a process of hiring actually say, like, do you guys remember Oliver Twist? Please, sir, may I have some more? Most people don't, okay? And that is a problem. Why? Before we get into the why, what do you guys think in terms of men and women? And I'm going to keep this part brief because I'm guessing we are mixed today. I don't want to focus too much on one gender. Bob, just see if there's any, if you could write %M and %W to share what you think about this.
I love how you're making this interactive. Very good. Okay, 25M, 30M, 15M, 30 woman, woman 5%, 20M, 20. It's going really fast. So 45M, 15M, W. Oh my goodness.
It sounds like a lot. It sounds like people.
It sounds like a lot. 80M, 20 female.
Okay, interesting. It sounds like everybody's fingertips are busy, and that's good. You are here, you are with us. I love that. Now I'm going to share this with you. This is a different source, so it's not the same as Monster. It's Robert Half. And are you ready? Because I'm going to share with you women, men, and I'm going to share with you age, because this is a very interesting one. Now, according to Robert Half, and this is data from 2019. So both the data are very interesting. Both are from 2019, so it's not that long ago. Percentage of workers who try to negotiate higher pay in their last offer by gender and age. So if you see male and female, 68% men, yes, they try. So closer to 70. It's unfortunately quite low if you compare it with women, if you compare men and women. And age is again very interesting. You see the younger population has a little bit less fear. And why fear? Because that's a big part of what we're talking about, and we will see the data. And as you get a little older, it's very interesting that the urge to ask, you would think it's gone up because we have experience, we have wisdom, we've been around the block. But according to Robert Half, it's not really the case. And they've done this by observing, serving about 2,800 workers. Now, this is data. It doesn't tell you why. Now, before I get into the why, I wanna, now if you guys are listening and you're men in this room and you are men who belong to the 32% that don't negotiate, please, I want you here. And if you are part of the 68% men who negotiate, I still want you here because you can do it better. Women, I want you to be 120% here. And the men who are negotiating, I want you to think on behalf of your mom, your wife, your daughter, your girlfriend, because there is a problem. There is a very, very serious problem. What is the problem? This needs to matter to women. And I don't like the word should, but today I'm using the word should with full veracity. This should matter a lot, not just to women, it should matter to everyone. Why? The data is clear. Women live longer than men. So women's money has to last longer. If women decide to have a family, let's say you're a couple, right? It's not a woman who says, hey, I want a baby, give me a baby. Like, right now, it doesn't work that way. You decide as a family, right? Now, what happens is for the woman, there is more impact after you have a baby between pregnancy, childcare costs, sick days, and so on. The way the career progresses, it's like it doesn't matter which culture, which world, which part of the world you live in, you are impacted more as a woman. You are penalized. There's something called pregnancy penalty, which is horrible. And by the way, there's a lot of data out there for Nordic countries. Yes, it's better in Nordic countries compared to countries like the United States. United States is one of the worst records on this aspect, but trust me, even in the Nordic countries, they don't get this right. This is a problem across the board. Not only does your career slow down, but you can have the most loving partner as a woman. You can have the best partner. When you decide to have kids, it's going to cost you dearly. That's the way it is. Pink tax. There was a video or research on this that came out a couple of years ago. Fascinating. Wherever you live, whichever city, country, wherever you live, I highly urge you to do something. The next time you're in the supermarket, obviously you're wearing your masks. Look at products which are exactly the same. However, the marketing this one is more pinkish, so it's targeting women, all the stereotypical stuff. Anything that is a cream and it's anti-age or shampoo, it costs women more than it does to men. Shampoos, razors, haircut. Good Lord, go for a haircut, cut and color. I am down a pretty penny. Not the same for guys. Like, please don't say it's quicker. No, men's haircut is complicated. Trust me, we tried it in lockdown. It's a disaster. My boys hate me.
Sonal, I need to interrupt you, please.
Yes.
Karen asked, wouldn't salary negotiation be dependent on the candidate's awareness of the going salary for that role? And how far on the or off the offer is from the going salary knowledge?
I'll come to that, but right now we're not there yet, Karen,
Mhm.
so just bear with me. But here I'm explaining to you why this matters and why it should matter to women. It's just simple. It's more expensive to live as a woman in today's world. So if you are already, there's a wage difference, wage gap, and then it's more expensive to live as a woman. Basically, you don't get the most bang for your buck. And this is the why. People have measured, enough research has been done over a career after high school, college, whatever. Those who negotiate, they stand to gain about $500,000 more during the entire career because they negotiated. Because if you look at the compounding effect year on year of negotiating, the point is this is a lot of money. Why should you not have some of this? And today we're going to do exactly that. And now we're going to come into the negotiation style. I'm going to take a 20-second pause. Bob, anything which is related to what I just shared? Any questions?
And people who work in childcare don't earn a living wage, or rather, that's a statement.
Mm-hmm. Any
Yeah.
questions so far? No, it's I hope this is making you fired up a little bit and a little bit angry, because it's almost like it's your right to, like, you've got to negotiate. You got to ask.
Yeah, well, one person asked, what is the definition of a negotiation? Does simply asking, will you pay me more, mean you are negotiating?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, what does it mean? What does it mean? You have your wants and needs. They have their wants and needs, right? This is a very interesting graph, which is done by a couple of people in the United States, and it's very interesting. And I think it's worth spending time on. When you have your wants and needs and they have their wants and needs, where do you come? That's negotiation. That's negotiation. It's very simple. And I want to spend a little bit of time here. You see the X, this is the X-axis and the Y-axis, right? Now, what is the sort of desirable place to be? It's somewhere here between compromise and collaborate. What is something to avoid? And that's here, avoidable. Now let's see, let me explain this to you. Compete is also not very desirable. What that means is, you come across certain people who are kind of angry all the time, and they will sell their mother to get that sale. Very high compete, very red. So it's always like, I win no matter what, right? I win, you lose. Avoidance is, I don't say anything, I don't ask anything, and the other person also loses out because you didn't ask, right? So the size of the pie is actually not even the same, it goes down. Accommodate is someone who's sort of very nice, very pleasant, like, you win every time, no problem, I'll put your needs first. However, it means I will lose, right? And there is some resentment in there. Collaborate is something that takes a huge amount of time and huge amount of, I would say, gray hair practice, but it's possible. What that means is I win, and every time I win, you win as well. Win-win, right? Which means whatever the size of the pie was, it's actually increased because of a collaboration style. And it takes time, it takes practice. And the most common one that we see across is sometimes I win, sometimes you win. And it's sort of that balance. When you see this graph, I want to spend here a few seconds here, and I want you to see it. Like, you can kind of have an idea where you fall. And if you don't, that's okay. You're not supposed to have epiphanies like right this minute, but I want you to think about this next time when you're practicing and you think the interview is going to result in a job offer. It's good to sort of practice where you are, because each of these has some good things and some not so good things. Okay, and what are those? Nothing is easy. Everything has consequences. Now, the one on the extreme left, which is avoid, this one, lower corner, what is the issue with that? You look less engaged, right? Because you're not saying anything, you're not asking, everything is fine. And you can miss out. It's not just about getting that dream job or any job. It's not just about that. It's also about the fact that in the future, there's a promotion coming up. It's the same strategies. A lot of these things can work again and again. Some of this advice is going to be evergreen. And like I said, you can have resentment. There can be passive aggressive sort of attitude, and then builds up over time, and one day there's an explosion. Then the accommodating one, which is right here where you see my mouse pointing, you win every time and I lose every time. So the issue is you're going to be taken for granted and people will take advantage. That's a problem. And then the compromising one, which is in the middle, you're looked at as someone pretty reasonable, right? And someone people can work with. You're sort of nice, you're pleasant. You do have certain boundaries, it's clear. On the other hand, you're willing to negotiate and you're flexible. I would say compromising is a really, really good place to be in. If you feel you're already here, good, hats off. Competing, which is not pleasant. And remember, I told you the red one, very sort of fighting all the time, battle, I'm in it to win it. And, these are my victims. Here come the spoils, all of that. You're seen as a source of stress. If you think you belong there, think about it. That person, if you guys have ever done recruiting, that person is a person that causes stress. People tend to avoid you. And a lot of goodwill is lost, particularly if this comes out of nowhere. Like, hey, everything was great. And suddenly in the hiring process, this person turns into this beast. And it's not that easy. Once you come across that way, it's not that easy to go back and, take a few steps back and change. And the last one is collaboration, which is here, I win, you win. Lovely, sounds fantastic, takes a lot of time and prep, but it is a pretty good zone to be in. And you are seen as someone who brings solutions. Hence, you will always be in demand. That's why I said great place to be in. However, once in a while, it is possible that one can slide between collaborating and competing. Nothing wrong with that. I think it's a question of adapting your style, because this is all sort of going with the, just you in mind, your negotiation style. But we all know it's not just us and our negotiation style, it's also what it's like for the other party. It's always two people in a negotiation. Is that good? Is it helpful? Bob, any questions?
Not so far, nope. But they are, we've had more people join, so this is good. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. If something isn't clear.
Let me see. Yes, good stuff. I'm an accommodator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Good accommodator.
Very helpful. Yeah, you seem to be pleasing the audience.
Okay, wonderful.
And they're learning.
Good, excellent.
All right, good.
So now let's talk about this question. This question comes up, what are your salary expectations, right? Now, this question can come up at very strange times during the process. It can come up at the very beginning before they call you and they want to reach out. And that does not mean, hey, it's a buying signal. They don't know yet. The reason they ask this question 99% of the time is they just want to make sure you're not mismatched with the position, because otherwise they don't want to go down the whole song and dance and it turns out you're too expensive for them. That is always the number one concern. You're too expensive for them. Hence this question is asked. I personally don't like this question. I don't see a lot of use coming from this question, but this is very, very common. And now, Bob, is the place I might tick a few people off. And if you don't like what you hear, don't take it. Don't take my advice. If it's illegal in the city or country you live in, do not sue me. I'm giving you this disclaimer. This is not going to be helpful to you. Okay.
We won't see. Don't worry.
Okay. There is a concern for me, and a lot of people say that people shouldn't even ask what is your current salary, and I understand where that is coming from, particularly with bias and abuse. There's a lot of good HR people. There's a ton of bad HR people and bad recruiters and bad interview hiring managers. They want to know what you're getting today so that they can cheat you, right? I agree, and that's true. However, it spoils it for everyone else, because if I don't know what you make today, and if you're too expensive, again, expectations mean something. But then at the end of the day, I feel, I'll give you this analogy. It's like a tailor, and the tailor says, this is the suit and it's for you, wear it. I'm like, yeah, okay, but you didn't know my measurements. I don't care, wear it. It may fit perfectly, it may fit better than you ever expected, or it may be a terrible fit. So that's what I like to know. However, not a lot of people are like me, and I understand why this question is highly discouraged. What are you earning today? And I, like I said, I know this because of the fact that a lot of people take advantage and cheat people. So if you get this question, my first thing is, if you have to fill up a form and they ask you, I am personally not a fan of giving numbers or ranges. Now, this is something you're going to get 10 different opinions on. So take this with a pinch of salt. Some people will say, give them an exact number, give them an exact range. I personally don't like that. And I'll explain to you why. I have a little method. Bob knows I have a thing for acronyms. I feel like it's very easy to remember when I put things in an acronym format. That's how I passed through school and college. This approach I call the salary approach. It's like salary, the word salary, but imagine that Sean Connery said it. So it's not salary, it's a salary approach. Let's go with the salary approach, shall we? So the S stands for selling, but you're not selling in a classic sleazy way like comb to a blind man, ice to an Eskimo, not that. It's about showcasing your value and how you solve their problem. This is your approach. This should be your approach during the entire interview process. So it's not like, hey, look at me, how awesome I am. Hey, look at me, I'm pretty awesome for you, because I know this is what you're struggling with, and this is where I come in, and this is where I can help you. H is holding your ground. This is not a very easy question to answer if you do not want to give a number or a range. If you do not want to share those stats, it's not easy. So you got to hold your ground, and I'm going to give you some links that you can see. I have a YouTube channel and I give demo answers there where you can explain that, hey, listen, I'm awfully excited about this role, and I think we are a pretty good fit. But I feel like it's too early to talk numbers at this stage, and I'd love to see once an offer is on the table. But no, I need to know what and there'll be a lot of pushing. So it's not an easy thing to hold your ground. Now, why do I say avoid giving numbers or range? The issue with that is, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna get a lot of advice. My advice comes again from just being on the streets, just hiring over years and seeing how people work and their psychology. When you give a specific number, it's like a Russian sort of roulette, right? It's too low. It's like, oops. Let's say the position has a budget of 150,000, right? And you don't know that, obviously. So you say my budget is not budget, sorry, my expectations are 105. You say something very specific like that. You've left all that cash on the table. You'll never know that, right? The problem with giving a range is, let's say I say my preferences are something between 95 and 115. Okay, so that's a range. How does it work in the real world? The person on the other side heard you, they heard 95. That's the way it is. You hope they heard 115. So they heard 95. And how do you solve this? And I'll tell you in the end what my approach is. If they are being really aggressive and like they really want to know that, and without that, they will not move to the next round, I'll help you with that. L stands for let them initiate the topic of salary. When you are in interviews, do not be the one to ask first. Hey, so do you have any questions for us, Bob? Bob is the candidate, and Bob's like, yeah, how much does this pay? Don't do that. Let it be coming from them. And this one is an interesting one. Answer the question with a statement. This is a preference I have. You may disagree with me, and that's fine. So some coaches and consultants will say, hey, so can you tell me, and they like to sort of throw it back to them. Can you tell me the budget for this position? What is your budget? I personally don't like that. I'm like, hey, if I'm going to, firstly, I don't like this question, but if I'm going to ask, then I'm like, hey, so what are your range? Then give me a range. Or if you have a number, give me a number, but don't sort of go back. It's personally, some recruiters don't like it.
Oh, okay. So one person asked, is it okay to ask them before I answer that, can you give me your range for the position? And I think you just answered that question.
I just answered that. Exactly. Okay. Exactly. If you do get pressed and you do have to give something, your biggest friend is research. What is research? Go to Glassdoor, go to salary.com, go to PayScale, go to LinkedIn Salaries, go to the best source will be your recruiter / headhunter friend who works, even if they work in a different industry or whatever, they'll have a pretty good idea because that's what they do all day long. Because I sometimes feel like Glassdoor, etc., can be a little bit outdated. And this can definitely be sort of more current and you have a good idea. And lastly, when you're asked this question, sort of it comes down to how you answer. and it's not like, some people can get defensive or uncomfortable. There's no eye contact, which is difficult in a virtual environment. Like right now, I'm looking at the camera, so you guys think I'm looking at you, but I'm looking at like nothing, like there's nobody around. It's not easy. When you're face to face, eye contact matters a lot. How you speak, smiling, and how do you give the answer? Are you shy, you timid, you confident? All of that matters a lot. So this is about salary expectations, because this question is very closely linked to salary negotiations. Can I move on to salary negotiation tips? All good?
All good, but I think people do underestimate the importance of body language and good eye contact.
Okay, guys, Bob will share, if you're really interested, Bob will share a link to my YouTube channel. Bob, I'll do better than that. I'll also share the two, you'll find those two videos. If you go to YouTube and you do a sort on my channel, the two most popular videos are these two videos: salary expectations and salary. It's very interesting. Both
Actually,
these are...
I've attached it to this presentation.
Okay, perfect.
But only if we were going to play it within it. So
no. The reason I say that is because in those two videos, I talk about body language in a lot more detail and I give examples. In fact, in both of them, I have a demo answer, which honestly, I have researched over weeks. And take advantage of it, make it your own, give it your own personality, give it your own color. Don't copy paste it blindly, particularly when it doesn't feel right to you, All
and
right.
can I just add that Sonal is being a little what's the word? Humble, because one of her YouTube videos has over 344,000 views.
This is I'm going to move to salary negotiation, but I want to say something it's a very good lesson. If any of you has a YouTube channel or a podcast or anything like that, I've had this channel for 2.5 years. Nothing happened with it. Nothing. The salary negotiation video that Bob is talking about that has almost 350,000 views went viral in February. So it's 2 months ago. 2 months ago, and that has resulted in monetizing this channel. It is so interesting. You just never know. When you believe in what you do and you believe it's good quality, it's gonna come. It's a question of patience. So that's an interesting lesson right there. Oops, leave webinar. No, I don't want to leave webinar. Sorry, I don't know what I was pressing. Let's go back to now. Let's talk about the meat of why everyone is here, and this is salary negotiation tips. All right, I told you I have a fetish for for acronyms, and here it is. This is a crazy acronym which makes zero sense, but it will make sense when I'm done. I promise you. These 10 tips and strategies. Speak slowly, Sonal. Work across, whether you're a fresh graduate, whether you have 20, 30, 40 years experience, and it doesn't matter which industry, which sector, people have written, I'm telling you guys, comments about how they got their desired salary by anything from 30 to 300%. I kid you not, because of these tips. These are great. Take what works, toss what doesn't. The number one reason why people do not negotiate, it's obvious. It's the F word, not what you're thinking. There is a massive amount of fear. The fear is, number one, people will rescind the offer. They will take the offer away because I tried to negotiate. Have I seen it happen in my entire career? No. However, the only explanation for taking the offer away is if people think you are suddenly not fit for the job. Imagine that the negotiation style suddenly turns to very sort of competitive. Or there could be complete external scenarios. For example, force majeure, recession happened, the airline industry. I graduated with an MBA, a very expensive MBA in 2009. And people from, who had offers from McKinsey and Deloitte, a lot of them saw their offers taken away. So different reasons. Those are the reasons I can think of for an offer taken away. But normally, it's very rare in my experience to see someone who like, hey, I'm so turned off. Bob tried to negotiate. There's no way I'm paying it. Like if they do that, there is a real culture mismatch. And maybe you should thank yourself that they took it away, because I'm not sure if that would always be the best place for you. So be careful. When I say be careful, don't be scared. It's very rare to see that happen. The other thing is the pleasing mindset. I want to make them happy. So if I try to negotiate, they may not like me. That's actually not true. 84% of all recruiters and hiring managers expect you to negotiate. 84%. Do you remember the number I shared in the beginning? Who end up actually negotiating? 33. That's a topsy-turvy world. 84 expect you to, 33 do it in reality. I know I'm averaging it out, but there's place there. And trust me, as a recruiter, and by the way, I've also done hiring as a hiring manager, not just as HR person, but I've needed people in my team. No matter what they say, 99.9% of the time, they have left a little bit in their pocket. There is almost always room for negotiation, a little bit. It comes down to if the candidate asks or not. It can happen. Some people do not negotiate at all. Remember, I said 84% expect you to. The other 16% will say, sorry, it's, and those are typically companies where it's very transparent. Their salaries are transparent. So there it's less. I had somebody on my podcast who's called Suzanne Lucas, and she said, I will never negotiate. And her dream is to work in a company where everybody knows everybody's salaries. So it's a little bit of a utopia. But till that happens, it's okay. Do go ahead and negotiate. The third fear is they'll say no. The fear of rejection. So what? Asking is better than not asking. Because if you don't ask, you anyway, the answer is always no, right? This is the big one.
Do you have time for a question?
Yes.
Okay, so once reviewing an offer, how long should you respond with a counteroffer?
Great question. And I promise to come to, it's one of my tips, and I promise to come to that.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Any other question which is more related to this one?
Well, one asked if you, want to ask what the salary range is. Why do you feel that the recruiter would be insulted with that question?
I feel like, answer the question. It's a personal preference. So whoever asked this question right now, it's a personal preference. Every single person on the other side is a person. I don't like to generalize that everybody will say, oh, that's great, give me a range. No, some people will say, no, I asked you first.
Yeah.
So if I ask a question, I just like to be given an answer, and it's a personal preference, no other reason. Okay. Okay. The second one is a very interesting one. Now, remember I said compete. You'll see a lot of people giving you advice. Go in, squeeze the hell out of them, get them out. No, trust me. At the end of the day, sometimes they take months to find you, months. Bob, if you've worked in recruitment, or anybody else here, if you've done any search whatsoever, it is painful. When they finally find you, you're their dream come true. Their goal, like a football field, their goal is to make sure you're happy with the offer you receive. Your goal is to make sure you're happy with the offer you receive. So if you really think about it, you have the exact same goal. Do not think they're out to get me, they're out to cheat me. Not most people, not most people. They want you to be, it's taken too long for them to find you. Trust me, if they lose you, they're going to have to go back all over again and start the process. Trust me, it's painful. It's expensive, it's painful. Their boss is standing and on the recruiter's head. I want that person. I want that person yesterday. What happened? It's costing them money. It's blood, sweat, and tears. So approach it like we, like a team. How can I make this work? Remember that style, accommodating, sort of compromise, somewhere in the middle. That's a great place to be in, because you look like you have their best interest at heart. You also have your best interest at heart, but it doesn't have to be mutually exclusive. Okay. We already talked about this in the salary approach about research, and here the same thing. So it's a bit of a repetition, this one. Make sure you go in, you're armed with your homework, and you understand what this position would pay in my, so in your industry, in your function, in your area, sort of geography, and that will give you a very good idea, because you're not going in sort of blind and, like just sort of like, hey, I don't know, let's see, let's figure it out. It's worth it to do your homework. And once you do your homework, it's good to know your MAN. What is your MAN? It's an acronym I made. Minimum acceptable number. So for this position, I'm looking at a nurse practitioner. the minimum I'm going to accept from anybody is because, you know your lifestyle, right? You know what it's like to live in your shoes. This is what I need. And then my cherry on the cake is add a 10% additional. So that is your man. Man is your minimum acceptable number, and then add your 10%, and that's your man. It's good to know that. It's good to know where you're coming from. You're not sort of blindly going in and you don't have any strategy. It's not like that at all. So if you are ever asked, back to the original question, your salary expectations, and they're forcing you and they're not letting you move ahead, and they don't let you write, like in the forms, you have to fill up a form to move to the next round, the very first round, and they don't let you write the word zero, or that's what I tell people to do, put the number zero or put a dot or write negotiable. Sometimes they don't let you, they want to know a number. If that is the case, then say, based on my data, based on my research, this is, and share that number. Share that number. If it's not my first choice, it's my last choice, but the number that you share, make sure it's nicely inflated with that 10%. So it's not that this is the bare minimum, I will barely survive. No, it's comfortable. It gives you a future. You can have a holiday, you can, have a nice life, you can go to restaurants when COVID is done. So it shouldn't be that you're struggling, and that is the minimum. Your minimum should be comfortable. Once you know your man, you also need to know your operating cash flow. And I know this goes without saying. This is particularly important if you are looking at changing locations, new city. And in my case, I've moved 5 times, a new country. Moving from France to Belgium, oh, it's a 30% increase in salary. No, dude. Like, oh, I totally forgot cost of living, all of that stuff. It's not just about that, but you also have, just like a company, there's an operating cash flow. Yeah, any finance people, you know how it works. You're like, this is what is needed to keep it running, to keep it above water. You need to know what is your operating cash flow. Once you know that, what I recommend you to do is, when you have an offer, like a physical offer in front of you, you can make this request. Say, hey, listen, ask very politely, would it be okay if I ask your HR or your accounting department to understand what would this look like net, take home? What would it look like for me? It's very different in every, different cities. And then and you could also be in your own city. Maybe there's certain deductions that you had not thought about. Like in my case, like I live in Belgium, my take home is different in this country. It's different if you're married, if you're single, if you have a, dependent person living in your house, like your parent or your kid or whatever, all of that matters. And then your take home, because the last thing you want is disappointment. You're like, this sounded great, but when I actually got my first pay slip after the first month, you're like, what? This is not what I was expecting. It's kind of unpleasant. We want you to avoid that. Number 6 is everything is negotiable. Everything is negotiable. We are talking about salary today. It's much more than that. Some things will be not. They'll say, no, this is fixed. The bonus is fixed for your, okay. What about holidays? What about childcare? What's schooling? Yeah, maybe you want to do an MBA, you want to do some course. Relocation. A lot of people will say, I will not pay relocation. Okay, sorry. If you can't pay, then how is it possible for me to move with my family, right? Everything is negotiable. House search, transportation, moving, between office and home. Will you be taking care of, rent? Whether it's public transportation, whether it's a car or whatever. It's ask. What's the worst that'll happen? No. A big fat no. Doesn't matter. Still worth asking. If you're moving to a place where they don't speak your language, I've asked for Spanish lessons, French lessons. I've always got them. Help for your spouse. Moving somewhere. Hello, don't forget your spouse. A lot of bad things can happen in marriage if you move and you're happy and your spouse is miserable, right? How about opportunities to grow, learn, develop? Job title. I feel like this job title is better. Sometimes that helps, particularly for your next role, right? Flexible working hours, especially now with COVID, everything is negotiable. It's a question of asking. What is the worst they'll do? They'll say no. But if you don't ask, you never get. Okay, moving a little fast because I want to make sure we have time for question answers. This is a very obvious one. It goes without saying, but the best leverage you can have is another offer. Obviously, right? You have one offer, you have another offer. And then you are able to compare. You're in a luxury position always, because you will have a preference. Let's say you have a preference with company B and company A pays a lot. You can tell company B, I have this other offer, but I'm really interested to work with you. And here it comes down to how you ask, and that body language and the tone of voice and the choice of words you use. Because I've come across candidates who come across, like a little threatening, and they hold that on top of my head like some sort of a weapon. I don't like it. I back off. for some companies, culture is very important. I don't like, for example, arrogance, people who are too full of themselves, have a chip on their shoulder. The companies that I have worked in, they were eaten up within like 3 months. They were asked to leave. So every company has their sort of little cultural norms and practices. So it's a question of how you use that other offer as leverage and not, slap it on their face. And trust me, I've seen all weird stuff happening. Coming to that, speaking of asking nicely, always be polite. Always ask nicely. Hey, I see that, if possible, try and ask in person. Obviously, in person may be difficult in this stage. So say, can we have a Zoom conference, a video call? If they say a video call is not possible, then do it over the phone. But try if you can and avoid doing all this on email. It's just, you just lose a lot of sort of your personal touch, right? And if you're on video and you're talking, look at the camera, speak with your hands, you speak with your body language, smile a lot, say, listen, I'm actually really, really grateful for this opportunity. And I'm so excited. I can't wait to begin. I just wanted to go over a few points, if that's okay with you. So, that there's a demo answer in my YouTube channel. So watch that video. And it's like, things like ask for permission, be grateful, ask clarifying questions, and not immediately like, hey, I wanted 75. This says 67. What's the best you can do? What's the best you got? Make me an offer you cannot, make me an offer I can't refuse. All of that stuff doesn't go anywhere, right? So it's a question of asking, clarifying. You'd be like, hey, so, based on my research, Bob, with everything, that I've, checked online, as well as, spoken with a few people in this area, in this function, in this industry, the number that I had in mind was a little closer to 75 than 67. So I wonder if that is something we can talk about. Asking in this sort of way makes a huge difference. And the people on the other side, they understand. Remember, 84% of them expect you to, and they will do their best to sort of make sure you're happy. This was the question that came up earlier. Please do not make this mistake that I made, which was after a 2.5-year gap in my career, I had kids, and then I had some sort of, a lot of stuff happen in my life. I got this offer. I was so excited. It was an HR director role, and I was like, where do I sign? And I signed immediately. Oh my God, it was the dumbest mistake I've ever made. And I came home, my husband was like, it sounds great, but where? I'm like, yeah, I already signed. So ask for some time. I think the question was how much time. There's no right or wrong answer. They will have some urgencies. And if you are good at what you do, chances are you will be in demand. And if you are in demand, they know that. Obviously, right? They don't want to lose you. So some people may say, you have 48 hours. Some people may say, take a week, right? The ones who are very secure of themselves will say, take a week. A lot of times it's not. Week is a lot, especially. But if it's a complicated offer, there's a bunch of things, there's stock options, etc. Then there will be some back and forth, right? So it may take a little bit of time. But I suggest don't rush yourself and do not fall to pressure. There'll be some weird pressure tactics that some people use, and they'll tell you to get back to them the same day, saying, hey, this is actually really important for me, and I would like to discuss this with my wife or my husband. And would it be okay? And make it a team effort. Remember, we said you're in the same team. Would it be okay if I come back to you by Thursday or by Friday, etc.? Do it that way, right? Last thing, this is a little weird one. There's some research about the days of the week. If you go and you're asking someone on a Monday morning, obviously, imagine you put yourself in their shoes. It's been a weekend. You're tired, you're exhausted, and you come in Monday and people want favors. You don't always feel very obliging to sort of say yes. But there is research out there that says Thursdays, Fridays are a good day to negotiate. Go figure. Go figure. It actually works really well, particularly Thursday afternoons. And I saw a very interesting comment on my YouTube video on salary negotiation. This one guy wrote something. He said, what's even better is Thursdays after lunch, because nobody likes to negotiate with anybody on an empty stomach. So think of babies, think of kids. I mean, hello, think of grown-ups. We're all cranky if we haven't eaten, right? So it's so funny. I can't tell you how many times I have been told this in messages and DMs. Hey, listen, I got the salary I was looking for. Thank you so much. All your tips really worked. By the way, this happened on Thursday afternoon. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I have seen it happen with me as a recruiter, and I love it when I see that viewers of that video have seen this happen as well. This is a very non-conservative tip, but if you have nothing to lose, give it a shot. You're saying, hey, can I come back to you by Thursday? Try and see if you can do that Thursday afternoon, and then see how it goes. And that's it. These are the tips, and the demo answer will be there on my channel. I think, Bob, we might just be able to finish on the 60-minute mark, not 75, because I was expecting to get flooded with questions, which might just happen now.
Well,
But
there were
recap.
some questions.
Okay, I'll come to them. So I'm nearly done. Quick recap. At the end of the day, it's worth knowing a little bit about yourself, your own style, your own preferences. Some ways are not great ways, like avoidance, competing, sort of, very kind of combative in nature. Otherwise, it's worth knowing where you are. And the fear element is so critical. That's the number one reason most people do not negotiate. And that fear element is also one of the reasons that there is a strong wage gap between men and women, which is why some people say fear, F-E-A-R, is false expectations appearing real. So punch that fear in the face and move on. You'll thank yourself. And those 10 tips, of course, they're there to help you. That's why I call this the short to fame approach. In case you hadn't figured it out, if you put all of these tips together in an acronym format, make this crazy word called short to fame. So these are the tips. So at the end of the day, salary is one piece of the puzzle. Don't let anybody tell you that salary is not that important. Yes, it is. Yes, you need to get ahead in your career. Yes, salary is an important piece of the puzzle. It's not the only one. It's an important one. No, but we're offering you a higher bonus. We're offering you a higher variable incentive. Sure, but there are no guarantees in that, right? And there's a lot of little fine print when it comes to that. The base salary is the number one thing that goes, no matter which country you live in, it's used as a basis of your future pension, your future. So it's worth spending time and getting this one as high as possible, which works for the company and works for you as well. In conclusion, I love this quote by Françoise Sagan: money may not buy happiness, but I'd rather cry in a Jaguar than in a bus. So with that said, there's 3 books that I recommend. Ask for It, which is all about helping women. Never Split the Difference is a classic by an FBI negotiator called Chris Voss. Like I told you, you'll see different styles work for different people. I love The Go-Giver, which is a very unusual book to recommend because it's all about giving. And you're like, hey, what does giving have to do with salary negotiation? Watch out, read the book. There's some 5 principles of success. And one of those 5 principles is the law of compensation. And it's about helping people. And the more you help, the more value you give, the more you will earn. There's a little spiritual, philosophical bent of mind to it, but I also find it I'm a big fan of practicals, tactical, practical things that I can see, feel, smell. And I think that would help you as well. Last of all, connect with me on LinkedIn. If you're watching me live, connect with me, reach out, tell me where you found me. I'd love to be in touch with you. And if you want to know anything more about what I do or how I work, check out my website, superchargeyourself.com. And with that, I am done sharing. So,
Okay.
Is the view okay, Bob? You can see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
And raise of hands if all of you can see us, please. If I do have my mic on. Okay, great. So there was one question, and at first it was a statement about how he feels like he accommodates because that he needs the job, and then saying he's guilty of that. But at that point, it's not negotiating, is it?
No, and just be careful of. There's a lot of self-judgment in here, so I feel guilty of that. Don't worry. Let's take the thing about what I'm talking about today is try and keep emotions a little bit out, which is not easy because it feels like the stakes are very high. But try and keep emotions out of it. Whatever you've done in the past, we've all done it. We've all been there, and we learn every day. The point is, it's never too late to learn something new.
Okay. And let's see. And one person wonders why the 10% rule. what if you've been underpaid at your last job? Wouldn't research
if
be
you're very
important?
good at what you do, why the 10%? I like a little bit of margin. So in case they can't meet me where I am and they give me 10% let I had already factored it in. It's my personal contingency. If you're good at what you do, and you are, and you know you're good at what you do, and you know you're underpaid, the right companies know that.
Right.
And I have seen that happen. If you guys have seen this, tell me if you've seen it. You've seen friends who tell you they got a 50%, 100%, 200% bump in salary. The reason they got that huge bump in salary is they were grossly underpaid. And the companies know that. Smart companies know that you're going to get together with a bunch of colleagues, go out for drinks over a beer. People are going to start blabbing their salaries out, blurting everything out. And if you find out you're earning 60 today, but everybody else earns 100, you're going to feel cheated. You may not leave immediately in a huff, particularly if there are no jobs around, but you're going to feel cheated. Now, companies don't want you to feel that. So the smart ones will make sure there's a comp and bend department. There's a proper department that sees parity in what they pay within the same company, that it corresponds to the market salaries.
Good point. Good point. And one person said basically what you had told about your mistake in that, let's see, my salary has gone down because of desperation of getting employed.
That's very common. I had someone reach out to me yesterday and she was asking how to. So never forget the difference. By the way, a little bit of a plug, but I really recommend it. It's free. I don't earn anything. I released a podcast episode with a guy called Bob Berg. The book that I just showed you, The Go Giver. He's the co-author of the book, Bob Berg. So check out the podcast episode I did with him yesterday. He discusses the difference between price and value. If you think about it, price is the same thing as salary. Salary and value. Now, value is what you bring in. With all your help, you're going to help the company save a certain amount of money, make a certain amount of money, save the company a certain amount of time, and help them to build a reputation. There's 4 things. Typically, why do people hire people? Help the company to make more money, save more time, and help build their brand or their reputation, right? Focus on the value you bring. Just lead with that. This requires a lot of homework and prep. Take your notepad. Trust me, it'll be worth it. You're not going to be so hell-bent on the salary amount. So even if you're underpaid, forget it. It's in the past. Focus on where you bring. And you're not selling, you're selling your destiny. You're not selling your history. I learned this again from a podcast guest. Love this line. You're selling your destiny, not your history. Make sense?
Absolutely. And one person writes, what if they tell you that the salary is a salary? There's no going any further.
Then you try all these tips, and if they don't work, you do need to know at which point you walk away. Do you walk away? Do you have other options? If it's a ridiculous amount and it's hurting your self-respect and you want to say no, then say no. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it, because it might hurt you down the line. If you think it's fair and it's not man plus 10%, it's man or a little bit lower than man, but you're okay with it, it's okay. You can also try, and please watch that video of mine. One of those things is you can try, for example, hey, what about if I say that within 3 months, I start, let's say 1st of May, and within 3 months, you give me certain KPIs, key performance indicators, and I meet and exceed every one of them. Could you bump my salary up to 75 or whatever that man looks like for you, minimum acceptable number? Would you be okay with that? Try a little bit of back and forth, try that and see. If they say no, if they're really strict and these things are managed very sort of black and white, then it's a no. At least you asked and they know you asked. It's out there.
And one person writes, confidence seems to be the key. Know that you're worth every penny and you're asking for it. It's great, huh?
Confidence and competence are like this circle, okay? Like look at the arrow. The more competent you are at your job and what you do, it's going to feed into your competence. Confidence. So it's like a self-fulfilling thing. So focus on that. And even if you feel low on confidence, these are some things you can do. Focus on really, really good job that you do and the value you bring. And it's going to be noticed.
Yeah. And I think research also has a role in negotiating salary.
100%. And people who say like, I'll wing it, please don't wing it. It's too important to wing it.
So one person wrote that, and this was something that you covered earlier in terms of negotiating at a later date. He said the 90-day negotiation worked for me. Good to
90
know.
days?
90
Yeah,
days.
you mean to say that in 9, a lot of companies will say, sure, you know, if you can give me the results, you know, if they have that entrepreneurial open mindset, they'll say, sure. Some who say, by the way, this, if they say no to every single thing you ask, every little thing, not even like here, like holidays, title, package,
Right.
relocate, everything, like, be careful. I think there's you can tell a lot about culture with the way people approach money. There's nothing more personal, and I know I said emotions and I'm contradicting myself, but there's nothing more personal than your wallet.
Oh, one person asks a very open-ended question, and that is, what about nonprofits?
What about nonprofits? What happens is, I don't have direct experience, but from what I hear, their grades, you know, their salary grades and bands are actually quite open. So they're not in it for like money, etc. So it's very difficult there. If everyone is at 75, 80, 85, it's very difficult for you to say, I want 120. Like, you know, it's very difficult for them to justify it. You can try. You can.
Well, I
It
mean, being
doesn't
in
hurt.
the nonprofit world myself, you're correct. You know, and oftentimes there is a salary range and they can't go beyond that because the organization is being paid through grants. So the money is
Having
the
said
money.
that, Bob, there are every now and then exceptions.
There are, mainly for higher level employees too.
If there's something you bring, and that's true for profit and non-profit, the more specific niche expertise that you bring to the table, and people don't see that easily, they are not able to find that easily, and you bring it, you can command a higher price, right? A higher salary.
And I think that's all I see in terms of the questions.
Awesome. I can't see any questions. I feel like, you know, a little
No,
bit
I know.
lost, but
You're in the dark end.
I'm like totally like at your mercy here,
Yeah.
but I hope this was helpful to all who took out the time today to watch and took out, you know, 60 minutes of your day.
Oh, it's well worth it. Thank you so much. And I do want to say that if you want the PDF for this presentation, then it is in, you can download it right now. So just click on salary negotiation with Sonal Bahl, sorry, PDF, and then you can download that. Oh, thank you all very much. You're getting a lot of thank yous.
Thank you
Very
guys for coming.
helpful.
My pleasure.
Thumbs up. Good.
Go and ask. Go and ask. You deserve it. Like L'Oreal, I'm sounding like L'Oreal. You're worth it.
Oh, you are. You are. And that figure that you threw out, about 84% of employers or recruiters, expecting you to negotiate salary. If you don't, you may disappoint them.
If you guys are going to connect with me on LinkedIn, see my post today. I talked about this, and I gave the source. Where did that 84% come from? It comes from an article in a blog called The Muse, and there's a very detailed article on it. Read it, guys. It's worth your time. It's worth it. It's worth getting more. It's going to change your future, your kids' future, your family's future. Okie doke.
Great job. Great job, Sonal. And when I end this presentation, we won't speak for probably another day, but in any case, thank you so much. And for everyone out there, please stay safe, okay? We'll get through this, but we can only get through this with care and staying safe. So thank you all so much. Okay, all right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.